of Canada is poised to cut interest rates by another 25 basis points on December 11th. Thank you guys for tuning in to another video. Today we're going to be discussing the latest October CPI data and how this impacts Bank of Canada's decision at their next interest rate announcement and the housing market in general. The Consumer Price Index rose 2.0% for the month of October, which was up 0.4% from the 1.6% figure we saw in September. This inflation data came in a little bit hotter than expected. We were expected to increase 0.3% month over month. We came in 1.4% month over month. And this was largely due to smaller than expected declines in gasoline prices. Nevertheless, this brings us back to Bank of Canada's target rate of the 2% inflation figure that they've been shooting for. The chances of back-to-back 50 basis point rate cuts now becomes more unlikely as the market has now adjusted for this uptick in inflation. Before the CPI release, the chances of a 50 basis point rate cut in December was 37%. Now after this release, it's now decreased to 26%. Over to shelter prices. I'll have to reference my notes here because there's a lot of different percent increases and decreases. But as we know, shelter prices have been a big contributor to this inflation and the CPI data. And as we've talked about before, as Bank of Canada raised rates and shelter inflation went up, it was kind of counterintuitive because that was bringing up inflation as rates were going up. So shelter prices slowed to 4.8% in October, down from the 5.0% we saw in September. A big contributor of this, as we've talked about in the past, is mortgage interest costs. So mortgage interest cost for October is still sitting at 14.7%, which again is down from September where we saw 16.7%. And this mortgage interest cost figure, although double digits and still a huge contributor, is down from its peak in August of 2023, which we saw a mortgage interest cost inflation of 30.9%. Over to rents, which is another big contributor to this shelter inflation. Rents for October rose 7.3% year over year, down from the 8.2% number we saw in September. But although this is a step in the right direction, rents still remain elevated and affordability is definitely a concern in the rental market, with rents rising from October 2021 to now 21.6%. So we have unaffordable rents in a lot of areas, but many in the industry may suggest that rents are actually declining and have been declining in real time over the last few months as we see more new completions come to the market, more condos come to the market, especially in major metros, more purpose-built rentals come to the market as developers are forced to pivot from condo to purpose-built rental. So I suspect this number will continue to fall month over month, but rents are still going to remain elevated, although they may decline in real time. They're not going back to what we saw in 2021. What does this mean for Bank of Canada's big decision on December 11th? Well, they've already cut rates 3 times, with the latest rate announcement being a jumbo rate cut of 50 basis points. So the likelihood of them having back-to-back cuts of 50 basis points seems unlikely now, but it's not off the table. A 25 basis point cut seems to be the prudent thing to do. Bringing this back to housing and the housing market and how it impacts buyers, sellers, and investors. Well, as we've spoken before, fixed rates have already priced in most of these rate cuts and reductions. So if you're a buyer looking to get a fixed rate, if you're looking to refinance, if your mortgage is coming due, and you think your rate's going to drop and you're taking another fixed rate, it's likely already been priced in. For those who have the appetite to gamble on a variable rate, you may see a reduction in future coming months with more rate cuts to come, although variable rates are still substantially higher than fixed rates. So in order to take a variable rate, you really need to believe that Bank of Canada is going to continue to be aggressive in this rate cutting cycle. This means that most buyers in the market purchasing power will not be drastically affected by this potential rate cut or future rate cuts if they're going with a fixed rate mortgages, although it very well may impact market sentiment. Historically, November and December are great buying opportunities for buyers because there's less buyers in the market. You can catch some good deals if there's sellers who want to sell before the winter comes, before the Christmas season, or family circumstances. And it doesn't seem like this is going to be the case this year because based on our latest sales data and sales volume after this latest 50 basis point rate cut, it seems like market sentiment is pretty good for buyers to be back in the market. So there is a chance we could see a busier than usual winter if we're just focusing on normal seasonality in a normal market. Looking ahead, eyes will be on two critical pieces of data: GDP growth and unemployment figures, of which Bank of Canada will analyze along with this latest CPI data in order to make their decision of what they're going to do on December 11th. So all we can do is stay tuned, look out for this data, and see what Bank of Canada does on December 11th. I think we're in for a 25 basis point rate cut. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week.